I'm always amazed when we're with managers, because we'll go present, and I've presented in front of 8,000 at a time, and we'll show them the ones that engaged in coaching, and the manager says to me, well, those are all the ones that are doing great. What about the other 80% that didn't sign up? Those are the ones that need the help. I said, there's a reason the ones that are great are great. They're coachable.
What coaching does for me is it forces me to work on the business and get me out from working in the business.
Stop for a moment in your life from all the busyness, and let's look at where do you want to go. Really look at your thinking and where that passion comes from, and your natural strengths and your potential weaknesses, and that those pulling drivers is a really big part that's different than a manager or a mentor or someone else that's working with you.
I mean, you could say my goal is to lose weight, but if you say I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days, and in order to do that, here are the steps that I'm going to take, that's a whole different commitment level to that goal. And I think that's been the big upside for me in working with a coach, is just to help me crystallize those things and get really focused on what has to get done to make that happen.
If you knew you could not fail, what is that vision? Give your brain the space to dream about that again. Because as human beings, we're all about that, but we get it boxed in, and we fall into this old place, and then we're not passionate, we're not excited, we lose sight of what it was all about in the beginning.
Nobody else in this room is focused on my practice every day the way my coach would be.
And I really think that the rush comes from, that constant and never-ending improvement.
To say that you can't have a coach until you're at a certain critical level of success, I think, is reverse. You'll never get to the critical level of success without, coach. I choose to hire a professional to help me with that. I mean, somebody's got to play that role in your life. Someone's got to be a sounding board.
So taking that time out, a dedicated time to really plan and shape your business, is so important.
We also have with us Rich Campe, and he's the CEO of Pro Advisor Coaching. He's an avid entrepreneur with 18 years of international and domestic sales and management experience, and is a best-selling author, which he's donated some books that we'll give away at the end of the session today. He founded Rich Campe International and corporate and personal coaching. He right now works with, and I say, where is Rich right now? I think 70 plus coaches, many of whom have experience in this industry, including people such as Staley Gentry, if you know him, who works with Rich, as well as Jim Schlesinger, a former branch manager of Illinois. So the wealth of knowledge that Rich and his team bring to the table, and in working with Tom, we're happy to have him join us as well. Rich. We'll start off with just a series of questions for both of them, and then we're going to open it up to all of you. So we encourage you to think about the insights that you'd like to glean from both of the gentlemen at the stage. So Tom, can you give us some background on your practice?
Sure. I started in the business in April of '88, and I spent my first year selling, and then about a year into that went into sales management, district management for about a year. And that was a good experience. In retrospect, I didn't realize I was going to have a firm someday, so the management skills that you learn are helpful. But mostly, being a manager just forced me to be the expert in the room with my newer advisors. I mean, I was only a year in the business myself. How much newer could they have been? But if it was a pension case, I had to be the pension expert, and it caused me to realize that there was no case too complex as long as you did your homework, and it forced me to learn. So it was a good experience. Then I formed a DBA in 1990 as money was going through significant ratings challenges. I'm sure at Equitable you guys were going through similar challenges. So I wanted to create more of an independent brand identity so that I could have my clients think of my brand, not so much the insurance company that I was working with. Then some key drivers along the way for our growth after I focused on personal production again were, the first was really realizing the difference between sales and marketing. And I would say that probably most people in the room who are, if someone's doing 150,000 of PCs, they're probably just as good in front of a client as someone who does 1 million of PCs. Other than someone who does 1 million of PCs might not need the business as much, so confidence may exude. But Other than that, the process is the same, but marketing is just getting it back more times because you have a process to get in front of these clients on a favorable basis. So some of the drivers, first big driver for our practice was seminar selling. Back in the 90s when it was in vogue, we were doing successful money management seminars. Forced me to build an organization around me because my biggest challenge went from seeing enough people to getting ready for all these meetings. From there, the practice grew rapidly. We brought in junior associates, and that forced us to tier the practice, which was an instrumental driver of growth. As I saw that trend dwindling, the seminar trend, I needed to think of the next big thing to help drive our practice's growth. And from there, I latched onto the Trusted Advisor program, and we partnered with a couple of CPA firms. And along the way, then I did a merger with Donna Nadler, probably about 6 years ago. That was another big fuel for growth for us. And now our current growth strategy is very similar to what we just saw. It's mergers and acquisitions, and basically looking for practices in that exact situation, rather than them necessarily bringing in a mentee or someone. We've done that, and then we can come and take over that practice and roll out expanded services. So our practice currently operates out of 2 offices, one in the suburbs of New York, one in the city. We have 10 advisors, 13 staff people, and we did last year about $6 million of total revenue. So that's sort of a short synopsis of how we got from 88 to here.
And Tom, what does your average client look like, and has it changed over the years?
Yeah, that changes all the time. I mean, now, basically, I won't, well, try not to meet with, I have to be honest because my coach is here. I can't BS you guys, right? I was going to say I won't meet with someone who has less than $2 million investable and $5 million in net worth. Clearly, I do that all too often in a given week, but I'm trying my best not to do that anymore. So that's, you know, in my ideal client, we've defined beyond the financial aspects. I'm most interested in people that are caring individuals that love their families and are interested in benefiting someone other than themselves. I find if I meet with someone who's very self-centered, the only thing we can really talk about is improving investment returns. There's not a lot of multi-generational planning to be done, and I just find that boring. So I like to get involved in total planning. Our book of business is 50-50 between broker-dealer and life and annuity, and it seems to come out almost to the penny every year, just by chance.
Great. Rich, so in hearing about Tom's practice, and you've been working with him for a short period of time, is this the average practice that you work with advisors, and this is what it looks like? And if not, how does it differ?
Yeah, Tom's practice is definitely different from the size of the practice. I mean, we have a lot of clients that are similar to Tom in that they've scaled and have a firm. Tom's unique in that there's some similarities and there's some differences. The unique part about Tom is he's extremely coachable. So when we get on calls, the assignments are done every single time. He's engaged. The coachability index is really high. And I'm always amazed when we're with managers because we'll go present, and I've presented in front of 8,000 at a time, and we'll show them the ones that engaged in coaching, and the manager says to me, well, those are all the ones that are doing great. What about the other 80% that didn't sign up? Those are the ones that need the help. I said, there's a reason the ones that are great are great. They're coachable, and they engage in the process. And so that's been really nice with Tom, and the good news is that he does engage. Unique that his practice is larger than a lot of practices out there, but still similar complexities that we deal with, right? How do you get more favorable introductions? How do you, work with the strategic alliance partnerships like the CPAs? How do you segment your client base the right way? How do you brand? I mean, there's core things that whether, like Tom said earlier, whether you're, multi-million-dollar producer or just getting started, there are core principles that have to happen over and over. So similarities there, but definitely Tom's uniqueness is he's already extremely successful, but I think he's just getting started in what he's capable of and where he can go because of his coachability index.
Thank you.
That sounds very good to me. I like that. Thank you.
Tom, you've grown your practice over the years. On average about 18% each year in the past 5 years. What motivates you to continue to improve, and where do you see opportunities for growth?
Well, I think just, most people in here are competitive people, so you get motivated to improve just because A, it's fun, B, you think you can, and you see other people that have succeeded at a higher level, and you say, well, why not me? So, I don't know what I would do with my brain all day if I wasn't thinking about what was next. I mean, I'm only 46 years old. Hopefully, I have a pretty long runway. I would have told you early in my career I'd be retired by 50, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So you really don't see the need to walk away. So so I mean, it's just, I think it's natural to constantly want to improve. And I forget the second part of your question.
What motivates you to improve, and where do you see opportunities for improvement and growth?
Well, I think that we're really refining our value proposition to the producer now, and that is fun for me, to sort of build an organization now that goes beyond just being a practitioner. And we've really done well with these practice roll-ups that we've done. We've only done a few of them, the biggest one being Donna's 6 years ago. That was more of a merger than a roll-up, but our practice has a very diverse base in terms of the services we offer, and even if we were to partner up with an AXA producer that's been focused on maybe one line of business their whole career, just to be able to come in and broaden the suite of services that are available to the client, it's been a great upside potential. And of course, with the industry changing and the insurance policies changing, there's a lot of old business out there that needs to be looked at. And so I think for us, bringing on new advisors, the right advisors, and then also some succession planning with older sole practitioners is really where we think we're going to grow.
Great. Rich, when you work with producers such as Tom, do you see the consistency and motivating factors, or are there any other factors that you'd like to talk to the group about?
Yeah, I think that the advisors that have that coachability index have a big, bold vision of where they're headed into the future. The future has to be bigger than the past. Otherwise, what compels us to keep going? And so the first thing we always do is look at, what is that vision? Is it bold? Is it big? Is it clear? What's going to pull you towards where you want to go? And in Tom's case, although maybe some of it hadn't been completely articulated, it was very easy to pull it out because he'd been thinking about this stuff a lot. How do we bring in new advisors? How do we continue to scale? How do we serve our clients more? And as you articulate that vision even more and get clarity about it, it really helps to pull you through each day and give you that excitement, that passion, and that love of the business. So often we see advisors or people in life that are talking about the old college days or the high school days when they played football, and they're really living in the past as opposed to creating that big, bold, compelling future. So it takes that intentionality to really think about, what is that's going to pull me towards where I want to go? And that's one of the most important key steps early on is getting clear about what it is and where you want to go, that's so clear, so bright, so huge that you want to move and pull towards that space.
I think if I could just add to that, one of the advantages, the biggest advantage for me in working with Rich so far has been, as he said, I think when we started working together this past year, I sort of was at an in-between point where I was very content with what we had just accomplished. And I go through these phases in my career where I sort of am in just kind of an idle mode. And I'm because I do like to appreciate the success that I've achieved. I'm not one that's just like, say, okay, that's great, I did that, now let's look forward. I mean, I take a few minutes to say, hey, that's pretty good. I want to go from here to there, I got there. I'm going to pat myself on the back a little. And I think when we met, I was a little bit in the patting myself on the back phase, and not really, he uses the word intentional, not particularly intentional about what the next 5 or 10 years look like. And as a result, I was starting to lose motivation because it wasn't specific, it wasn't measurable, and it wasn't clear to me. So as we've had conversations to try to bring out these general concepts into specific things, right? I mean, you could say my goal is to lose weight, but if you say I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days, and in order to do that, here are the steps that I'm going to take, that's a whole different commitment level to that goal. And I think that's been the big upside for me in working with a coach is just to help me crystallize those things and get really focused on what has to get done to make that happen.
Great. And Rich, I think you're emphasizing that everyone's motivated by something different, but it's just understanding what that motivating factor is and putting some structure around it. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, look at this meeting. I mean, the great practices are out. I mean, you're learning from the best in the industry and one of the best organizations in the world. I mean, you are the top achievers. So what is it that drives us? And it's not that we don't know what to do, because honestly, anything out there that you need to be successful in the business is available. So what really stops us? It's what's going on between our ears. It's our thinking part of what's there. And that's why I love mentor idea, because they give you the best pass and the pieces that are there. But to really look at your thinking and where that passion comes from and your natural strengths and your potential weaknesses and that those pulling drivers is a really big part that's different than a manager or a mentor or, you know, someone else that's working with you, someone that's dedicated to really helping you get that clarity and that constant, you know, commitment towards improvement. And I really think that the rush comes from, you know, that constant and never-ending improvement. I mean, when we know we're becoming all we can be as human beings, we feel great, you know? And I've been there too. I've retired twice in my career. And I know that feeling is kind of sickening, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my career? But when I'm improving, when I'm constantly going for it, man, I mean, everything lights up in my world because the future's so big, so bright, it just all starts to align.
Tom, you talked about the right clients, the right advisors, the right markets. Have you had any frustration points in your practice and or lessons learned along the way finding the right?
No, actually, it's been perfect every day. No frustration at all. Huge frustration. I mean, you know, what you have in here sometimes just doesn't work, right? I mean, and so execution of the vision is tremendously frustrating at times. Being bogged down, you know, so I spent the early part of my career getting out from underneath the stuff, right, and getting in front of clients and getting out from under the paperwork. Then as I started to build an organization, I started getting buried under that stuff of, okay, do we need another staff person? This staff person doesn't want to sit next to this staff person. They're not getting along. You know, we need 3 new printers because I can't work under these conditions. You know, just stuff that you operationally, and that is not stimulating stuff, by the way. That's not something I get really charged up to get out of bed and go deal with running the office, dealing with, you know, if the staff's not executing, the producers aren't happy. So, you know, that was the next level, is to try to get out from under some of that. And now I'm getting excited about refocusing on the things that I like to do, and that's see clients. I really get excited about complex uses of life insurance. I feel like I've gotten away from that over my career, and I find it more interesting than investments. I just do, especially now. But but I think that you know, every day's got frustration in it, and it's just a question of trying to get through. But I mean, the big change that we made recently is we put department heads in place in our different departments, so that I now have middle management, basically, that I only have 3 people that report to me and everybody reports to them now. So that was a huge step for us, and it took us a while to figure it out, and I think we got it right. I'll let you know, it's only been about a month, but everyone seems really excited, and I just feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders again, and I can refocus and get re-energized now.
Great. Rich, speaking about the complexities that Tom is mentioning, you have a concept called the circle of complexity. What's key for an advisor to get out of the circle or to consider the factors of the circle of complexity, and can you explain that to the group?
Yeah, so a circle of complexity, or as Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, has mentioned, the ceiling of complexity. I think it really is a circle because it kind of engulfs our whole space. If you think, I've been at $250,000 and I've been there for 10 years, or I'm at $150,000, I've been there for 10 years, or I've tried to bring in junior partners and I've been there, you know, without being able to pull this off for 5 years, or whatever it is. Those sticky places with where we end up is that circle of complexity. I've tried to lose the weight 1,000,000 times and I haven't been able to pull it off. I've tried to build a relationship and it hasn't worked out. We have to be careful with that, because we get caught in those circles of complexity because of our belief systems, not because we can't pull it off, but we end up sort of like the fly in the window, and it keeps trying to get out by hitting the window again and again and again. And we have to change our approach each time. But we get caught in that belief system, and we call them belief systems BS, because they lock us into who we are around, well, I've tried that 10 times. I was talking to someone yesterday, said, well, we just can't transfer our clients to our junior guys because everyone wants to meet with me. Well, right away, I'm looking at the belief system because we get caught up in that. So I don't care where you are, if you've been at 150 forever, 250 forever, 500, or you're not taking Fridays off, or you're not on the golf course enough. We've got to look at what are the belief systems first that are stopping us. That's the circle of complexity that holds us back from breaking out. And I believe, like Tom talks about, he's got a really unique definition of frustration. You may not know it, but it's really, frustration means he's about to learn something new. And so when he gets frustrated, he has a totally different paradigm of looking at that versus others, where someone gets frustrated 3, 4, 5 times of trying to pull an outcome off, and then they get locked into thinking, that's just who I am. I'll never break out because I've always earned 150. I'll never earn more than that, or I've brought on junior partners. I can't break out. So we have to look at what's driving us from a thinking perspective and continue to change the approach until we get the results we want.
Great. Tom, we know creating a vision for your practice is important. What is a vision for your practice, and how do you communicate that to your clients?
Well, it's interesting. First of all, one of the things that I feel a bit more burdened by over the last few years is, as you build an organization and you're now the managing partner, CEO, whatever your job title is, I don't use CEO because that would imply I have other executive officers that report to me, so we're not there yet, so I'm the managing partner. But I feel a sense of responsibility not only to our clients, because, I mean, having the vision for the clients is easy. We want to do everything right all the time and exceed their expectations by a mile. I mean, in a perfect world, right? And we want to be able to serve all their needs effectively, whether we do it in-house or partner. And so we want to be the best financial advisors in the business, period. But when we think about the vision for the firm, I have a different sense of responsibility now that I have producers that have placed their career in my hands. I have employees that come to work every day in our organization. And, you know, Al's firm talked yesterday about culture. It's my job to have the vision for the future and to use that vision to motivate everybody that sets foot in the door that day, and to create a culture of success, a culture of a great place to work. And it's fun, but it's a bigger burden than I'm used to. I'm just not used to thinking like an executive. I'm used to just being a producer. So this is really where a lot of my my mind time is spent. As we move forward, as I said, the vision of the firm now includes value proposition to the client, which I spent a little time on. The value proposition of the producer is really where we've layered on another part of the vision. And that's because, in my mind, the only thing that makes one practitioner, not the only thing, but one of the main things that makes someone more successful than someone else is just how many hours a day they spend in front of clients. And, you know, we all know that we get bogged down doing things that aren't, you know, green time or whatever seminar you went to, whatever they call it, revenue generating activity. And so our firm has the systems and the processes in place to hopefully make sure that our advisors are spending their day advising and not worrying about case design, not worrying about processing applications. And I think you'll see that. You saw that with Al's group. Any of the other groups that have been up here and the ones that are to follow, having an organization around them or their producers allows the people to do what they do best and use their time effectively. So our vision for the future has to do with basically figuring out a cost-effective price to the producer to farm all that over to us and not have to, because not everybody's good at building a business. Some people are great advisors, they're just not great business people, and that's their biggest barrier. I think that we can take people from 250 to 500 very easily. Their talent is already there. They just can't get out of their own way in terms of who to hire, when to hire them, how to train them, job descriptions, all those things that go into running a business that have nothing to do with your ability in front of a client. And so what we're hoping to do is to be able to scale that and start to make money by growing the business that way. And we'll see in 5 years how we're doing at that, I guess.
Rich, I know you begin your conversations with advisors talking about vision. Why is that important as a first step, and how do you help advisors walk through the completion of a vision, refining a vision, but getting to that end goal?
Yeah, good question. It really starts to play into, as you do a mind scan, and you'll hear more about this at some point, but we have a tool that measures thinking. And so we want to align a vision with your natural strengths, your potential weaknesses. But as you start to think about a year from now or 5 years from now, and you could wave your magic wand, what does that really look like? And give your space, your mind space to think freely about, well, what would it be? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would that vision look like? To really put those belief systems to the side for a minute, without the boundaries, without the barriers, and just let your mind be creative. As human beings, we're meant to be creative, but over time we get blocked because of things that have happened in our life. We fall, we trip, we stumble, and as kids, we fall, we trip, we stumble thousands of times, yet we learn how to walk. Yet as we get older, what tends to happen is we get locked in, especially as we get more successful. What I found is successful people are the most difficult to change because they don't want to lose what they have that made them so successful. Yet, to get successful, they took all kinds of risk and fell and tripped. And that's what's amazing to me about Tom is that he's already super successful. He's still willing to fall, trip, stumble, be humble about it, and keep going. That's the art form of a true Olympic athlete. I mean, because they fall, they trip, they stumble so many times. So that vision, you really got to kind of, pack your junk and put it in the trunk and decide, where do you really want to go? If you knew you could not fail, what is that vision? Give your brain the space to dream about that again. Because as human beings, we're all about that, but we get it boxed in and we fall into this old place, and then we're not passionate, we're not excited, we lose sight of what it was all about in the beginning and all those things that we thought about growing up and what we wanted to create with our families and things like that.
And what coaching does for me is it forces me to work on the business and get me out from working in the business. And in this time, it takes time to dream about these things. And I don't like to think about work on the weekends, so I don't spend my free time dreaming about my business. I want to have blocked out time to think about the future of the business and what it looks like. And again, just having a scheduled meeting with someone who's going to hold you accountable, to me, is very valuable right now.
Yeah, we just finished the book that we were talking about earlier that Dawn mentioned. It's called The Off-Season for Financial Advisors. And I was meeting with a friend of mine, Walter Bond, who played in the NBA. He was the first-round draft pick for the Mavericks and started his first game, which had never happened before at that point. And we were talking. I said, what made you so successful in the NBA? He said, you know what? It was my off-season. I said, what do you mean? He goes, it was my time I spent with my coach when he said, go practice your dribbles. Go practice your shots because you're not a very good basketball player. This was when he was in college. And he said, you know what? I looked more forward to my off-season time of working on my business than I did to the in-season because my off-season shaped my business. So taking that time out, a dedicated time to really plan and shape your business is so important because we get so busy in the business running it and all the things that are happening cash flow wise and hiring and employee issues and client issues that we typically don't stop long enough to design what we want it to look like. In fact, as advisors, what do you typically do? And you're helping clients take an off-season time to look at their financials, right? I mean, you're saying, hey, stop for a moment in your life from all the busyness and let's look at where do you want to go, and you're going to help them through partnership achieve where they want to go financially. Same thing. Are you taking the time out to really look at and design your own business?
Great. One last question, we'll turn it over. Tom, you have the ability to find the right clients. How does strategic partnerships and alliances, specifically with CPAs and others, play into the mix of finding the right client?